Well, the script was scary to me, to be honest, and it seemed very dark, and I didn't know whether it would work. And my agents urged me to meet with Mark Forster, and I met with him, and he was impressive, and I liked him. And gradually, I thought it was, you know, the risk of doing the part of playing an extreme racist is you know, playing a very unsympathetic guy, but in a certain way, the Billy Bob and Haley's dilemma and coming together, it needs to be set up against a background of the family traditions of racism and cruelty.
The reason I took this movie, which is pretty much the reason I take any movie, I mean, there are other factors involved, you know, that they all add up, but the main thing is the writing. You know, if it's good writing, if the characters are clearly defined, and the story is good and important in some way, and I found all those things with this, and the fact that Mark Forster, the director, was someone who got the script and knew to be true to it and the spirit of it and let the movie breathe, that was the second thing that attracted me to it. And the fact that it was being made for very little money attracted me to
tráilers. Visita mi canal.
When you make a movie for very little money, there's no time to screw it up. And that's one of the reasons I like doing independent films.
I got it one day and I read it on a plane from LA to New York, and I just loved it. I thought it was a story that had me riveted. It was shocking in some places. It was sad. It was hard to read at points because it was so strong and had so many strong images presented in it. And it had a character of a woman especially who I thought was very strong yet very fragile. Very angry, but yet sad. And at the end of the day, she persevered, and her strength won out over every obstacle that was presented. And I thought, I want to play a woman like that.
You know, first when I read the script really, there were so many topics in the script which interested me, like, you know, about the breaking the circle of violence, about the racism, about the death penalty, about love, forgiveness, and hope, and all these different topics which I truly love were like presented to me in a not in a very preachy way, and I thought it was just very beautiful and a very poetic script, and it was also like sort of a throwback movie to like the 70s, like movies like Five Easy Pieces, Badlands, Tender Mercies, and I thought movies like that weren't made anymore today, and I thought that would be the opportunity to make another film like that, which I think there were, you know, I don't want to, you know, to make just a beautiful film.
Yeah, he's a racist. He's got emphysema. He's been a prison guard all his life, and he sees it as an honorable profession, and putting men to death is his like his vocation, his calling, and he doesn't question it. He doesn't question it at all. He doesn't feel any guilt, but on the other hand, he pays a tremendous human price. You know, his sons basically abandon him.
I play the character of Hank, who was on the surface a very sort of closed-minded, angry, prejudiced guy, when in fact what's in his heart is not necessarily that. It's something that's been passed down to him by his father. He lives in that environment, and that's one of the things that this movie is about. How, you know, if you, whatever your view of the world is and your lifestyle is going to affect your children's lives, and if you don't care about that, then, you know, your children can end up in a really bad spot. And but what often happens is the children of parents like that then inflict it upon their own children. Their anger comes out toward them. It seems like we don't go back to correct things. We try to do it to the future, and I think that's a bad thing to do. But you know, you're not going to tell your parents, hey, you guys are you guys are monsters. How could you do this to me? You end up, in this case, my son really thinks the way I'd like to, but I know I'm sunk in this thing, and I kind of am angry at my son for being good because I know I'm not, you know, or haven't been. And then the movie sort of takes on a different shape after sort of realizing that.
The character of Letitia is a woman who starts off in the movie being somewhat downtrodden, sort of beaten up by life, you know. Her husband is about to die on death row. She has a son who's dealing with the death of, you know, in the absence of his father and the death of his father by overeating, and she's struggling to just make ends meet with like little menial jobs, just trying to make a way, and she's very angry at times. She's very sad. She's very fragile but tough as nails. And very much in need of, you know, the human touch, love, of a connection, a real connection with another human being. And at the end of the day, I think her strength perseveres, and she finds that ray of hope at the end.
Mark Forster has less hair than I do, so it was, you know, I felt, you know, safe about working with him. If he had a lot of hair, I would have been a little wary, but he's a very serious filmmaker and very visually oriented. Like, he's really trained and prepared and knows his stuff and has a great sense of, you know, and I wasn't sure of all this, but I really felt that he was great. And it really worked out well. I came to really get along with him and be able to trust him a lot. Because frequently it's having a director who works with you and that you can trust when you're, you know, either under the top or over the top. I try to avoid either. You don't want to be too low, but you don't want to be too much over the top. There's a lot of over the top going on in movies today. A lot of over-the-top work.
Mark's a great director. He's exactly the kind of director I like to work with. He's the kind of guy who knows how to read. And by that I mean he gets the story. He has an understanding of the vibe of the. Even though he's from Switzerland, he got the culture just because it's about human beings. It's the human culture, not necessarily, you know, trying to go. I mean, like a director from another country could look at this, oh, it's a Southern movie, and turn it into a stereotype, you know what I mean? Because of what he's seen of that. He never even thought about it being in the South. He thought about it just being about people. And I think that was one of the strengths of this movie, is that Mark left this great story alone enough to let it breathe. And most directors are afraid to do that.
What Mark Forster, our director, is amazing. The fact that he's Swiss and he made a movie about a hard slice of American life, I thought is a credit to him. And I also think that's what made it so simple and so beautiful, because he didn't have a political position that he brought to it. So there's no heavy hand. He didn't have a heavy hand on how he directed it or what images got presented. He just basically told the story, you know. And as a director, he was very generous with us as actors. He let us, you know, bring who we thought these people were to the table. But he also was very clear about who he thought they were and how we could mesh the two and respect each other's views. He knew the movie he wanted to make. He had it edited in his head before we even started, you know. So we didn't have to overshoot. We didn't have time or the money to overshoot anyway, but he was very organized and very clear about the story that he wanted to tell.
Billy Bob is just, you know, truly a brilliant and gifted artist all around, as a musician, as a writer, director, and actor. And he's a chameleon, he can do anything, and it was just, for me, to work with Billy Bob, I just, you know, learned a lot in just observing him and seeing him work. And he's so supportive, and he was, from beginning to end, always supportive of my vision and just let me do the film I intended to make from the beginning on. And I thought it was just so wonderful and inspiring working with someone like him.
And working with Billy Bob was just a joy. He is probably one of an actor that I think I've learned the most from while working with. He's very funny, very giving, and he forced me to try to be better, you know, because he's so good. And I hate him because he's so good without even trying, you know. He seems like he just is, you know. Every time you see him in something, he's just going to be good, and you just know it, you know. And I learned a lot from watching his process and how he works.
Halle Berry is fantastic. I love her. I think she's a wonderful and great actress. I think she's passionate and very open of, like, you know, of communicating with me, with other actors, and just a very giving person. And it was just such a great experience because she's truly a very, very fine actor, and I felt very, very grateful and very thankful that I had a chance to do this movie with her.
Fantastic. She's a true professional. Great girl. I think she's a really good human being. She's a soulful person and really got this character. And you know what? I have such respect for her for going down there and doing this thing without worrying about how she looked or behaved or anything like that. Because, you know, if you're going to play a character like this, you got to go down pretty low in the barrel, you know, and she didn't mind doing that.
I hope the people of different races will hug each other, or at least get along, and also that we can question with so many ethnic groups. You know, I mean, this is an amazing country where all these different races really get along. But I mean, it took a hard way to get there. You know, like the Civil War, and I mean, certainly where Buck is still living in the Civil War days in his head.
I hope that the audience walks away with, well, after seeing this movie, that they realize that they can go through a lot of destruction and drama in their life, but in the end, there's always what propels us is forgiveness, love, and there's always light at the end of the tunnel, you know. And I hope people will take that away from the movie. It's ultimately, you know, a movie about healing and forgiveness.